Okay. Hi, my name is Richard Gonzalez. I'm an Arizona State University student, and today we'll be diving into the Black Mirror episode analysis mini lecture project. I decided to go over season three, episode one. This is the Nosedive episode, and this is for class Sociology 334, Technology and Society, led by Professor McQueen. First we'll do an introduction and or an overview for this episode. As I've mentioned previously, this is for season three, episode one, Nosedive. And just a quick overview of some key elements for what this episode presents are how social media ratings will govern and dictate nearly every aspect of your life, where you live, what you can qualify for, even to what job that you have. We'll do a deeper dive into that with some examples coming up. But some other elements that this episode presents are that every member of society is nearly forced to be some kind of influencer or uh, have just a bright outlook or just be overly positive. And later on, I'll touch on how this can take away from one's individuality by conforming to the societal expectations that this society is conceptualizing. If users don't present this positive image and adhere perfectly to the social media driven expectations that's brought on by society, they're essentially punished with low scores and are restricted from certain privileges. Basically, anyone is able to rate somebody just with their phone. So if I'm passing by you, I can rate you anywhere from one to five. And I think the general idea behind this episode or concept is to rate people highly, or at least that seems to be the general societal expectation. But ultimately, if people do not follow the established societal norms, their quality of life diminishes greatly. And we'll kind of take a look at how that comes to be with our character here and how this episode ties into Foucault's concept of biopower with specific emphasis on how technologies are used to govern populations and behavior. And first, we just want to add a little bit of background to who the main character is, as I feel that she kind of ties into just like a regular person or someone that doesn't necessarily raise any concern or red flags. And so we ask, who is Lacey? Lacey is white, Caucasian, female. My personal estimation was that she was somewhere between 21 and 35. You could argue that she's maybe in her 20s, but she also has a collar job, which focuses again on the social media rating. She lives in a suburban neighborhood. She is overly positive and cheerful. And she is a 4.2, as you can see in the first image up top. And then lastly, she's very desperate for five-star ratings as they pertain to your quality of life that you're given when you have a higher rating. Again, we'll touch upon this a little bit later, but I just wanted to add some background as to who the main character was and how it pertains to this particular episode. And yeah, that's Lacey. And first, again, we also want to ask what actors are present and what technology is used. So for this episode, seemingly every individual is provided with or installed this technology to view other people's ratings just by looking at them. And that's kind of illustrated with the top graphic there, where there's a technology that is inside, again, seemingly everyone's eyeball, where they can see this person's a 3, this person's a 4, this person's a 4.2, this person's a 4.7, or anyone's other ratings. And as for this technology, it's, I guess, adds to the overlying concept that you want to present yourself as cheerful, positive, and we also want to ask what other actors are present. So the social media ratings, smartphones themselves, the platform that's used to post and to rate others, people in real life, your online presence, and there seems to always be internet just about everywhere you go. Um, so I also put in the internet or just constant connectivity, as well as just the overall judgment that this seems to create with knowing everyone's social media rating. And we'll tie in the first example of how this technology is able to govern life, where Lacey is trying to apply for a new place to move into, but she just does not have the required social media rating of a 4.5. She's a 4.2, and she is ultimately thought to talk with a consultant about how she can raise her rating. And this also adds into the plot a little bit, but there is instantly a divide in power and opportunity because Lacey is not considered as a potential renter due to her social media score or rating. And I found that this was similar to one's credit score, where this can dictate whether an individual can qualify to finance a house or a car. So it kind of creates a divide just by that technology or rating. Um, the plot furthers or thickens when Lacey is again trying to raise her score, and she is invited to a wedding from a childhood friend or acquaintance, depending on how you look at it. And she's actually asked to be the maid of honor for this particular wedding. And she learns that the guest list includes a high number of highly rated individuals. And she's hoping to attend this wedding so that she's able to receive these high ratings and then ultimately boost her score. And then she's able to apply or live in the place that she's looking to apply for and increase her quality of life. Another aspect to how this concept for technology is used to govern or police behaviors is that upon learning that Lacey's flight is canceled and she's not able to get another flight due to her rating, she is restricted access to this opportunity due to her run-in with a little bit of bad luck. She got a few bad ratings, and this ultimately brought her to a 4.1, where she needed to be a 4.2 to get another flight. She's ultimately brought into an outburst where she uses profanity, and in this society, it's highly frowned upon to use profanity or just act negatively, where people will send you negative ratings. And that's kind of what happened with Lacey. So she was denied a flight because of her new score of a 4.1. Um, and the profanity warrants the front desk attendee to call for security on Lacey, where she's given a punishment by decreasing her social media score by 1 full point, bringing her to a score of 3.1. And she's also given a fine to where she will receive double negative damage for the next 24 hours for any negative ratings that she receives. So this is an example of punishment that exhibits Foucault's concept of biopower by showing how technology is used to govern populations and control behavior. So this is showing that provided Lacey did not, or rather did adhere to the general societal expectations to maintain cheerful and positive, she might have not received this particular fine or rating. And this punitive action is essentially teaching her a lesson, but it's governed through the technology that's presented in this particular episode. And you'll see how that kind of ties into what happens next. So, Lacey, unable to get a flight, decides to get a rental car where she drives 9 hours, runs out of battery, and because of her new low score, no one really wants to interact with her. And she's not able to speak to anybody to get the adapter that she needs to charge her rental, due to her score. And so I thought that this further exemplified how the technology in this episode is used to govern behavior and set societal expectations that because of her low rating, people should not associate with her. Ultimately, Lacey decides to hitchhike to the wedding, as you can see here. Let me move me over right here, and you can see she now has a score of 2.8. And so finally, Lacey is she arrives to the wedding under the influence and just appearing deranged, where she her makeup is running, her dress is falling apart, she's acting a fool, but she arrives to this wedding to um, ultimately to try and gain these high ratings that she's looking for, but it seems to kind of counteract or do the opposite of what she was looking to achieve. And that's because people, when she arrives at this wedding, she's kind of disturbing, and she is uh, a little unsettled to where people feel just uncomfortable, which is having them send her multiple negative scores, and she has the double negative damage fine during this time. So she is getting double damage for each negative score that she receives. But due to her crude and deviant behavior, she ultimately receives a change in social status. So people just aren't looking to interact with her to any sort. She's being kicked out of the wedding, and her becomes so low that she actually becomes incarcerated. And so I also wanted to point out that in this example or this episode, um, and this concept that if your rating becomes so low, you can actually be thrown in jail. And I also thought that was another example of how um, that technology can be used to govern, rule, and control behavior. So as you can see on the right, Lacey is ultimately thrown in jail out of desperation and just her wild behavior, which is not something that people want to see. And eventually, yeah, she's incarcerated. And then I just wanted to also add a little bit of real life application as we conclude today's analysis. So, something that I found similar to this particular episode is that cancel culture is something that is reminiscent of what's kind of happening here, where people are canceled due to their behavior, kind of how Lacey was canceled, but she was ultimately thrown in jail. And thought that this was similar to credit score. I thought that the two influencers that we see here, one is Speed. He just won an award for Rolling Stone's most influential creator. And we have David Dobrik, who ran into some issues with sexual allegation and was ultimately canceled. And so I thought this episode was reminiscent of that. And I just wanted to tie in that kind of comparison. But ultimately, I thought that this was a great episode and just kind of further exemplified Foucault's method or concept of biopower. And that is time, guys.